Have you ever felt like the fast-paced world of today was too much for you? Have you looked for clarity in the face of confusion or tranquility in the middle of chaos? What if I told you that there is a way of life that could equip you with the tools to handle life's difficulties with peace and resilience? Stoicism is that way. It is an old theory that is still useful today, just like it was 2,000 years ago. Stoicism is a long-lasting theory that has its roots in the Hellenistic period. However, its timeless knowledge still speaks loudly in the world today. Stoicism teaches us how to live a happy life, control our feelings, and be strong and calm when bad things happen. It tells us to pay attention to what we can control and accept what we can't. Seneca, a famous Stoic philosopher from Rome who was born in 4 BC, was one of the most important people in this school of thought. Seneca had many skills. He was a philosopher, politician, playwright, and at one point in his life, he was the ruler Nero's assistant. What we remember him most for, though, are the deep intellectual works he left behind. These have affected generations of thinkers, leaders, and regular people. Philosophical writings by him have passed the test of time, giving us advice and ideas that are still amazingly useful for the problems we face today. His many accomplishments are great, but Letters from a Stoic is one of the most effective. It's a collection of 124 letters Seneca sent to his friend Lucilius. In them, he talked about many different topics and shared his thoughts, knowledge, and advice. These letters are full of wise words and can be used as a permanent guide to living a good life. They teach us many things, including the value of virtue, the importance of living in the present, and the strength of resilience in the face of hardship. These Seneca lessons are not just philosophical thoughts. They are useful tips that we can use in our everyday lives. They show us the way to live a good life, find peace in a crazy world, deal with problems and suffering, make real friends, and be happy. In order to fully understand Seneca's letters and their place in the heart of Stoicism, it is important to know how and why these lessons are still relevant today. The world we live in now is very different from Seneca's Rome, but people's hopes, fears, problems, and feelings are still at their core. The Stoic principle of focusing on what we can control becomes a lighthouse of clarity in a world where there is too much information and too many things to distract us. It clears our thoughts and tells us to focus on our actions and reactions instead of worrying about what's going on in other people's lives. Not only can this concept help us get more done, it can also help us feel calm and peaceful in the middle of chaos. In today's world, success is often linked to money and social standing. But Seneca's letters tell us that virtue and knowledge are what bring real wealth and happiness. These lessons push us to rethink what success means and to aim for personal growth, moral living, and important relationships. This will give us a deep and lasting sense of satisfaction. Additionally, Seneca's honest discussion of life and death is a breath of new air in a world that tends to avoid talking about death. His ideas push us to face and think about our own deaths, which helps us live more meaningful lives by appreciating every moment and making the most of the time we have left. Also, since mental health problems are becoming more common, Seneca's advice on how to deal with our feelings, like anger, fear, worry, and sadness, is helpful. In our psychology toolbox, lessons on mental resilience, self-control, and the strength of reason can be very useful. The lessons we're about to talk about are not old intellectual ideas. They are useful, powerful, and deeply connected to our lives today. They give us timeless knowledge that can help us live in a peaceful, brave, and wise way in this complicated world. Like many Stoics, Seneca saw problems as opportunities to change. He saw it as an important part of life that could help him grow and develop resilience, not as a burden. Seneca said in one of his letters, "Fire is the test of gold, adversity of strong men." This beautiful comparison shows how he felt about hard times. In the same way that fire makes gold better, going through hard times and getting through them makes our character stronger. This statement isn't telling us to look for trouble just to find it. It's telling us to change how we think about the problems we face. It's about finding the inner strength and determination to get through hard times and come out on the other side, not only whole, but also smarter and better. So, how can we use this knowledge in our everyday lives? Let's begin with a case. Think about the global disease that spread around the world. It was a very hard time for a lot of people. There were risks to your physical and mental health, problems with your finances, and a deep sense of insecurity. It also acted as a test, or fire, that helped people, groups, and even whole countries show resilience, adapt, and change. People have learned to work from home. Companies have moved to digital platforms. Groups have come together to help each other, and healthcare systems have quickly come up with new ways to fight the virus. Bad things that happen to you could be losing your job, breaking up with someone, or getting sick. It's clear that these are painful events, but they also give us chances to grow. If you lose your job, you might be able to find a better one, or even start your own business. The end of a relationship could be a time to learn more about yourself and get better. A health scare could be the wake-up call you need to start putting your health first and making better choices in your daily life. The Stoic way of dealing with all of these scenarios is not to ignore or push down the pain. It means recognizing the pain, accepting the truth of the situation, and then using it to bring about growth and change. You have to understand that you can't always change what happens to you, but you can change how you react to it. Of course, this doesn't mean that hard times will be easy, but Seneca's lessons give us a positive outlook. It changes the way we think about problems from a barrier to a stepping stone, a test that makes us better and stronger. It's a viewpoint that inspires us to approach difficulties head-on with bravery and resilience. Let's remember that hard times aren't always problems. They can be strong ways to grow as a person. When you're going through a tough time, remember what Seneca said. Fire is the test of gold, adversity of strong men. You have the strength to get through life's problems, and each one you face is a chance to grow stronger and smarter. Seneca taught a deep lesson about time that is one of his most important lessons. We are starkly reminded of how short life is in his letter. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficient amount has been given to us for the greatest goals. If everything were well spent, this idea goes against what we usually think, saying that life isn't naturally short, but it is when we waste the time we're given. Today's fast-paced world makes this lesson even more important. So busy with our daily lives and plans for the future that we forget to enjoy the present. We put off being happy for a long time, telling ourselves things like, "I'll be happy when I get that promotion," or "I'll enjoy life when I retire." But Seneca tells us to change our minds about this way of thinking. It was very important to the Stoics to live in the present and enjoy the here and now, instead of thinking all the time about the past or the future. This doesn't mean we shouldn't think about the future or learn from the past. What it does mean is that we should try to enjoy every moment, knowing that we can't get it back. But what does this have to do with our lives now? How can we use Seneca's advice? The first thing we can do is practice awareness, which means focusing on the here and now. Stay fully present when you're working, with loved ones, or just having some alone time. Don't let anything else get in the way of enjoying the moment. This not only helps you enjoy each moment more, but it can also help you concentrate, get more done, and feel better overall. Second, think about the things you do and how you spend your days. Are you spending time on things that don't matter or don't make you happy? Can you give these tasks to someone else, get rid of them, or make them easier to do so? You have more time for what's important to you. Don't forget that every minute you waste on something pointless is a minute you lose on something important. Additionally, learn to be thankful for the time you have. Be thankful for each day, hour, and even each breath. Instead of complaining about how quickly time goes by, see them as valuable gifts. Last but not least, make sure you're not just live for the future. You should set goals and work hard to reach them, but don't forget to enjoy the process of getting there. Life is happening now, in the present. Seneca's thoughts on how short life is should serve as a strong wake-up call for all of us. We should stop spending time and putting off our happiness for later. Instead, we should start living fully in the present. It tells us to remember that time is short and to enjoy it while it lasts. How we spend our time is more important than how much time we have. We don't have a short time to live, but we waste a lot of it, as Seneca said. Let's try to make every moment count by living fully in the present and making the most of the time we have. Seneca wrote a lot about life and thought, and he didn't forget to talk about how important relationships are. He had a deep understanding of how people need to connect with others, and his ideas about friendship are still very relevant today. One of the most beautiful things about true friendship is to understand and be understood, he said. This simple but deep statement says a lot about what friendship is and how important it is. At its core, this sentence stresses how important understanding is for any real friendship or connection. To understand and be understood means to have a strong emotional connection with someone, to be ready to listen and share, to see the world through their eyes and let them see it through yours. So how does this old wisdom still apply to our lives today? To begin, it's important to know that spending time together or having similar hobbies doesn't automatically make someone a friend. Understanding each other's happiness, sadness, hopes and fears, and most importantly, being there for each other through all of life's ups and downs, is what makes a relationship worthwhile. In a time when we are more and more linked online but could be mentally detached, it is important to keep these close connections going. Even though we are all very busy, we need to make time and effort to strengthen these ties. This could mean having deep talks, being there for each other when we need it, or just sharing happy and funny times together. Second, Seneca's advice makes us think about the ties we already have. Are they based on knowing and caring for each other, or are they just surface level? Are we staying in situations that drain us, or are we with people who get us and make us feel better? Remember that the key to good friendships is not having a lot of them, but having good ones. Finally, Seneca's quote isn't just about being known, it's also about knowing other people. This means we should try to listen well, care about others, and understand them without judging them. It means consciously trying to see things from their point of view, understand how they feel, and share your experiences. It's about learning to understand how others feel and letting that affect how we treat them. In a world where mistakes often lead to fights, this kind of understanding and kindness can help people get along better with each other. Deeper relationships can form not only with friends, but also with family, co-workers, and even people we don't know. Seneca's wise words tell us of how important it is to understand others and be understood ourselves. It makes us remember that there is shared understanding at the heart of every great friendship. So let's follow Seneca's advice and try to make friends based on mutual care and understanding. The more ties we build like this, the better our own lives become, and the better the lives of others become as well. In this way, we spread happiness and understanding, making the world a place where everyone knows and is known. The things Seneca taught covered many areas of life, such as how to deal with emotions, especially anger. Astutely observing, There is no more stupefying thing than anger, nothing more bent on its own strength. This lesson from Seneca shows how important it is to be in charge of your emotions, especially anger, which can be one of the worst emotions possible. Seneca says that anger is a feeling that is focused on itself and keeps going on its own. People get stuck in their own feelings when they're angry, which makes them make bad choices and do things they later wish they hadn't. According to Seneca, anger is not just another feeling, it is a destructive force that gets in the way of our tranquility and ability to think clearly. At the height of the moment, it's all too easy to give in to anger. But how can we use Seneca's wise words to stop this? How can we better control our anger as modern people who live in a world that is often stressful and tense? For starters, Seneca tells us to understand that anger hurts us. Realizing this is the first thing that we need to do to deal with our anger well. When we realize that being angry hurts us more than the people we're mad at, we can start to separate ourselves from this strong feeling and see it more clearly. Second, we need to become more self-aware. We should try to figure out what makes us angry and pay attention to the mental and physical signs that we're getting angry. Being aware of ourselves can help us spot our anger early on, so we can take action before it gets out of hand. Following this, Seneca's lessons tell us to use logical thought once we realize we are getting angry. It was very important to the Stoics that reasoning and reason were strong. When we're angry, we should take a moment to think and then use reason to clear our minds. Ask yourself if your anger will make things better. Is how I'm reacting right for the situation? What would be a better way to respond? Mindfulness practices and relaxing methods can also help you deal with your anger. Deep breathing, gradual muscle relaxation, or even just going for a walk can help calm the body and mind and give you a much-needed break from a stressful situation. Finally, to take a Stoic view, we should remember ourselves that we can only control how we react to other people's acts. We don't have to get angry when someone does something that bothers us. Instead, we can reply with understanding or, if necessary, strong assertiveness. Managing our anger doesn't mean hiding how we feel. It means dealing with them in a better and healthy way. By following Seneca's advice, we can break out of the harmful loop of anger and instead build mental resilience and peace of mind. In the end, Seneca wants us to see anger for what it is, a strong feeling that hurts us. He also gives us the tools we need to fight it. We can take back our power from anger and use it in more positive ways by learning this lesson. So let's take his smart advice to heart and work to not only control our anger, but also rise above it, turning it into understanding, patience, and finally, tranquility. The idea that virtue is nothing more than right reason is at the heart of Stoicism and Seneca's beliefs. This view shows that virtue is the highest level of ethics and morality, and it shows how deeply Stoicism is committed to moral purity. But what does Seneca mean when he talks about virtue and right reason? How can we combine these ideas? Like other Stoics, Seneca thought that virtue was the best thing in the world, better than money, fame, happiness, and even life itself. He thought that a good person treated others fairly, was brave in bad situations, resisted temptation, and was wise in all areas of life. How then does one put the idea of right reason into practice in real life? To begin, we can develop virtue by making knowledge and reason the main things that guide our lives. In other words, we have to make choices that are not only good for us, but also moral and fair. It means always wanting to learn more, being open to different points of view, and using critical thought to get through life's challenges. Second, Seneca tells us to think about what we do and how we feel. Would they help us develop the virtues we want to have? When no one is looking, do we act with honesty? Do we always choose the fair and right road, even if the wrong one would be easier or more rewarding? We can make sure we are living in line with virtue by regularly reflecting on our actions and our moral sense. Also, developing virtue means having kindness and understanding. It takes us to see that everyone has value on their own and to treat others with respect and kindness. It means speaking out against wrongdoing, helping people who need it, and trying to make our neighborhoods better places to live. Lastly, we need to develop a sense of resilience and peace of mind if we want to live a good life. A good person doesn't let outside events change their morals when they are going through hard times. Instead, they face these problems with strength and calm. We can bring Seneca's lessons to life by following these rules in our daily lives. By living in line with virtue and good sense, we can find peace and happiness that go beyond short-term joys or outside accomplishments. Seneca's focus on virtue is a strong reminder of how important moral honesty is in a world that is often focused on getting things. His lessons encourage us to put virtue first, aim for moral greatness, and live in line with our greatest values as we deal with the challenges of modern life. Let Seneca's wise words lead us to a life of virtue, a life based on sound reasoning, and a life that is fundamentally the best. It was said that Seneca had strange ideas about wealth and happiness, even though he was rich himself. Most people think that money makes people happy, but Seneca thought that virtue and knowledge were what really made people happy. He said in a deep way, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces trouble because he is not allowed to prove himself." This deep statement makes us think about how we think about money, happiness, and the part that hardship plays in our lives. At first look, this saying might not make sense. Don't we all want to live lives that are free of trouble and hardship? But Seneca says that a life without problems makes us unhappy and unfulfilled. What does he mean? Seneca's thought shows that hardships can help us grow and understand ourselves better. We wouldn't be able to put our resilience to the test, find our skills, and realize our potential without facing challenges. At its core, facing and beating obstacles is how we truly learn about ourselves and what we can do. This coming to know yourself, this change that comes from struggling, is where real happiness lies. On the other hand, the search for money often takes us off of this road of self-realization. Being rich can make you feel safe and comfortable, but it can also make you lazy, spoiled, and envious. When we have a lot of money, we might miss out on chances to learn, grow, and show what we're made of. How can we use Seneca's lessons to change the way we think about wealth and happiness today? To begin, Seneca's wise words tell us to welcome hardship rather than avoid it. We don't have to see a task as a problem. Instead, we can see it as a chance to learn and grow. You need to have an adaptable attitude, which means seeing problems as opportunities to get better. Additionally, we should try to find a balance between our desire for wealth and our growth in virtue and knowledge. It's not that we should reject money completely, it's that we should make sure our desire for financial success doesn't get in the way of our moral and personal growth. Thirdly, Seneca tells us that real wealth isn't just about having a lot of stuff to possess. Building a strong inner life full of virtue, knowledge, resilience, and self-realization is what it's all about. In other words, the richest person isn't always the one with the most belongings. It's usually the one who has built a strong character and found inner peace. Finally, Seneca's lessons help us understand happiness in a more complex way. Happiness isn't just not having any problems. It's also about finding meaning and growth in the middle of life's problems. Life has its ups and downs, and this book is about accepting them all and finding joy in the process of finding yourself. Seneca's ideas about wealth and happiness give us a much-needed option to the one-sided view of the world that most people have today. Wisdom, virtue, resilience, and self-realization are the real benefits of life that it tells us to seek out. Let us follow Seneca's advice and try to live a life that is both materially rich and spiritually rich. A life that is happy not because it doesn't have problems, but because it can handle them with grace, strength, and wisdom. Living in balance with nature is one of the main ideas of Stoicism. Seneca's words, "God is near you, He is with you, He is within you," say it all. To fully understand how profound this statement is, we need to look into how Stoicism sees God and nature. Stoicism says that God is the same thing as nature or the universe. Nature or the universe is the logical force that runs the world. So, Seneca's quote makes me think that we all have a spark of the divine, also known as the logos or universal reason. So, to live in balance with nature, we have to get in line with this natural logic and the natural rules of the world. First, we need to understand that our natural logic is part of who we are. Humans are unique because we possess the capacity for reason. We can see, understand, and follow the normal order of things because we are logical. To live in balance with nature, we must use our minds to make smart choices, know the difference between right and wrong, and deal with the problems we face in life. The quote from Seneca also makes us want to accept the natural order of the world. In the same way that nature goes through stages of birth, growth, decay, and death, so do our lives. By realizing and accepting this, we can get along with the busy city life, finding peace in the fact that things change and enjoying the present. To live in balance with nature, we also need to understand how we are linked to each other and to the whole world. In the same way that the elements in nature live together in a fragile balance, we are all connected to each other, to other living things, and to the world. Because of this, living in harmony with nature means valuing good relationships, making a positive difference in our communities, and caring for our surroundings. Finally, Seneca's writings tell us of the Holy Spirit that is inside us and is the core of who we really are. We respect this inner divinity by living a life of honesty, virtue, and inner peace, by making sure our actions are in line with our logical nature and universal ideals. Seneca's ideas about living in peace with nature are basically a plan for how to live a happy life. It tells us to trust our minds, go with the flow of life, and realize that we are all linked to everything else in the world. We become more in tune with our real selves and live lives of greater knowledge, virtue, and inner peace as we work to live in line with these ideals. In many of his works, Seneca talked about how important self-discipline is for living a good life. This view is beautifully summed up in his quote, "The poor person is not the one who has too little, but the one who wants more." To begin, it's important to know what Seneca means by desire more. This thirst shows uncontrolled hunger and desires, the never-ending need for more, whether it's more money, more power, or more fun. Seneca said that regardless of how much we possess, this constant longing makes us poor. We're always looking for the next thing that will make us happy because we're not disciplined enough to be happy with what we have. Learning to control these cravings is therefore an important part of becoming self-disciplined. It involves developing a sense of happiness, appreciating what we have, and controlling our desires in a way that is consistent with virtue and reason. To start, we need to be aware of and accept our desires. This means becoming more self-aware and reflecting on our own thoughts and feelings, figuring out what drives us, and realizing when our cravings are taking over. The next step is to assess these desires after they have been discovered. Do they make sense? Do they fit with our ideals and ideas about what's important in life, or are they just making us want more? The process of evaluating shouldn't be seen as a one-time thing, but as something that should be done all the time. It entails regularly evaluating our desires, determining whether they are real, and changing our behavior in response. It's a process of always looking at yourself and making yourself better. The last step is to do something to control these desires. This could mean setting limits for ourselves, making good habits, and asking for help when we need it. Rather than letting your cravings control your life, you should try to live it by following reason and virtue. Seneca's lessons on self-discipline are a strong warning that real wealth is not having more, but wanting less. Finding happiness in what we have and using self-discipline to control our desires are the goals. Rich people don't have the most stuff. They have the least amount of stuff they need. Seneca's wise words can help us learn self-control, control our desires, and find real wealth in virtue and happiness as we go through the complicated world we live in today. Even though the road may be hard, the benefits are worth it. Peace of mind, self-respect, and the freedom that comes from not being ruled by our desires. Seneca, like many other Stoic thinkers, often thought about death and gave it a deep sense of tranquility and acceptance. His strong words summed up what he believed. Death is the release from all pain and complete relaxation. But what does this Stoic view of death mean, and how might it change the way we think about life and death? To understand Seneca's point of view, we must first understand the Stoic idea of amor fati, which means love of one's fate. Stoics say that we should accept and enjoy every part of life, even the end. They teach that death is a normal part of life, just like birth, and that we shouldn't be afraid of it. Because of this, his quote is a welcome statement. It doesn't show death as a scary end, but as a relief, a last chance to relax from all the problems in life. I don't have this view because I'm negative or don't believe in life. I have it because I deeply understand that everything in life, even pain and suffering, is brief, and that death is the natural end to these experiences. This way of thinking about death changes how we see and live our lives. It tells us to live each day fully aware that we are going to die, which can make our lives more important and focused. We start to value the present moment more and try to spend our time on things that really matter when we fully understand that our time is limited. From Seneca's point of view, we should live without worrying about dying. It says that death is not a disaster, but a normal event that can't be avoided. We can get rid of this fear and live a more free and braver life if we accept death. It makes us realize how important it is to make the most of every moment we have. In real life, his lessons on death tell us to regularly face our own death. Regularly thinking about death can help us deal with life's problems better, value our lives more, and set priorities based on what's really important. It has to do with changing our minds so that we don't see death as the end, but as an important part of life. The popular story about death is that it is the final enemy. Seneca's ideas about death go against this. Instead, it asks us to view death as a normal part of life, a final escape from life's problems, and a return to the tranquility that existed before we were born. So let us live our lives accepting death, not out of fear, but because we understand it, and not to avoid it, but because we are aware of it. Because if we do that, we can stop being afraid of death and live a fuller, braver, and more important life. Seneca's words give us peace and a new way of looking at things. They tell us that we can face death, the end of our lives, with the same calm acceptance and understanding that we use to face life. In Seneca's ancient knowledge, his advice on how to deal with fear and worry really hits home, especially in today's world full of uncertainty. It was something like, "There are more things that are likely to scare us than to crush us. We hurt more often in our imagination than in reality." This quote says a lot about how people are and how we tend to be more troubled by our own fears and anxieties than by actual events. Before we can get into this lesson, we need to realize that fear and worry live in our minds and aren't always related to the real world. We usually worry about things that might happen in the future or things we wish we had done differently in the past. Neither of these things we can change right now. Seneca tells us that our anxieties and fears come from this tendency to look into the past or the future. Next, Seneca tells us to figure out what we can control and what we can't. This is a key idea in Stoic thought. We can start to let go of the stress that comes with worrying about the future when we realize that most of the things we worry about are out of our hands. What we think, do, and say in the present is where we can focus our energy on things that will make a difference. Mindfulness and being aware of the present moment are strong tools that can help you with this. By focusing on the present moment, we stay grounded in the real world and are less likely to project our fears into a made-up future or dwell on mistakes from the past. It's possible to see things as they really are, not as we think they might be. Also, logical thinking is a powerful way to deal with fear and worry. The Stoics and Seneca both say that we should fight our fears with reason. Are they making sense? What do they come from, real life or our imaginations? We can often realize that our fears and anxieties are based on odd scenarios or overstated results when we question them. Lastly, it's important to practice understanding. In this case, acceptance means recognizing our fears or anxieties without judging them and then letting them be without letting them decide what we do or how we act. It's about realizing that these feelings are normal and don't define us or our world. Seneca's advice basically tells us to look at our worries and anxieties with a clear head and an attention on the here and now. He tells us that our anxieties come from living in the past or the future, and that the present is where we can find the strength to get rid of them. To help us get through life, let's remember what Seneca said. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. With this knowledge, let's try to stay present, think logically, and accept without judgment, because these are the best ways to get over fear and anxiety. Seneca's quote, "We must go for walks outside so that the mind can be strengthened and invigorated by a clear sky and plenty of fresh air," describes the art of travel as a remedy for the soul. This may sound like a current self-help tip, but the truth is that this idea comes from old Stoic thought. What did Seneca mean by this, though? How can we use it in our daily lives? I think Seneca's main point when he says to go outside and take walks is that we should get away from our normal, comfortable surroundings and try new things, see things from different points of view. Seneca thought that travel wasn't about wealth or getting away from things. It was about growing as a person, thinking about oneself, and refreshing the mind. It's important to remember that Seneca wasn't just supporting physical travel. He wasn't just supporting walking or other forms of travel from one place to another. It's really about the trip we go on inside ourselves when we leave our comfort zone. It's about the new ideas and clarity we get when we get away from the daily grind and see something new. To put what we've learned into practice, we can try to change our surroundings often by going for a walk in the park, a hike in the woods, or a trip to a different city or country. These things give us the clear sky and fresh air that Seneca talks about, which helps our minds grow, relax, and see things from different angles. It's not just about moving, though. It's also about being fully present and involved during these trips. In this way, we let the surroundings and events shape our thoughts and ideas. In this situation, travel also makes you think about yourself. When we meet new people, see new places, or experience new cultures, we also meet new sides of ourselves that we might not have seen in our daily lives. This kind of self-reflection can help us learn more about our ideals and views and become more self-aware. Also, our thoughts are often crowded with too much knowledge and other things that need our attention in this fast-paced world. We can get away from these distractions by going somewhere new. This gives our thoughts a much-needed break and gives us room to think more clearly and artistically. Seneca's advice on travel is a good reminder that we all need breaks from our daily lives, both mentally and physically. In particular, it stresses that these breaks and trips are good for our minds and souls. It's a call to go outside and not only see what the world has to offer, but also to start an inner trip of growth, clarity, and self-discovery. Let's do what he said and go find some clear skies and fresh air. Let's use travel not only as a way to get from one place to another, but also as a remedy for the soul, a way to learn about oneself, and a way to rekindle the mind.